And welcome to the channel. Make sure to subscribe because this is a 3-part series and you would know when the next part of the series came up if you were subscribed. So there's one good reason. Tons of stuff on the channel. Make sure you always search in the channel search bar on the channel for songs you may be requesting. I've done hundreds, so chances are maybe I did one already. Anyway, so today is part 3 of a warm-up series. The first one was chromatic exercises for dexterity, right? Get all the digits moving around. Second one was how to make a progression a little more interesting by learning how to arpeggiate parts creatively, right? So you're doing the right, and letting that all ring out, something I totally struggle with all the time, so I definitely make that part of my practice routine every day. And that's usually the second thing I do after. This is usually kind of the order that I go in, right? Third one has to do with soloing and finding the chord shapes to my progression all over the neck, and then slowing down and really trying to find melodic phrases by observing where those chord shapes are so I know I'm hitting the notes as that progression goes by. So for an example, if I use the progression I learned, or we used last time I learned it too. Learned with you. Okay, so it's A minor, F, C, G. Well, I know that all works with A minor or A minor pentatonic, and I also know, just by knowing the scale shapes of, say, A minor pentatonic, right here is position 4. Or if you look at it right here. So, knowing that, I played all those chords right out of that one position. So that tells me I can solo and hit every single target note of every chord in the progression without even moving, which is great, okay? So I want to see if I can do that in other spots of the neck. Well, I have an A minor here. I also have an A minor here, right? Part of this big A minor. This is position 1 of A minor pentatonic. So my next thing is, well, if position 1 is right there, I have my first chord right there. How far do I have to go to get to my F chord, right? Well, that's when inversions come into play. You want to know at least 3 different inversions of every chord all over the neck. And if you know you have an F here, you also have an F here. So again, that's right in that first position. Didn't have to move. Now, if you want to get deeper in that kind of thing, check out the cage system, because caged light bulbs will go off like it did for me. I was like, oh my gosh, where has this been my whole life? And I found it. Now, I don't use the whole thing. I found out what works for me, but it's a definitely good starting point. Okay, so got an F there. So I'm covered. So in reality, when those first 2 chords go by, right, got my F, I can hit those 2 chord tones and not even have moved again from another spot. I got a C right here, right? So 2 of those notes are right there in that spot. Okay, now, so we got A minor, F, C, or right out of position 2, or this part of position 1. Now, if I have an F here in this shape, that means if I go up a whole step, I'm going to have a G. So right there, I got F, G. So if I go here, A minor, F, C, G. Now, if I wanted to get all the notes of this C chord and not have to move out of position 1, all I got to do is bend that note up a whole step. I just hit every single note of that C chord. I hit this one, and this one. Okay, and so the next one would be G. Now that is, you know, like with the F, it doesn't strictly adhere to minor pentatonic. It goes more into a minor scale. So you're going to be targeting that note. You can stay here strictly in minor pentatonic or here. But this note is a really cool note, and I wouldn't necessarily, if I just knew, you know, the scale, like say minor pentatonic, I wouldn't even know that note was there unless I knew where the chords were. And that's why it's super important, especially if you're just mostly familiar with pentatonic. When you start to see where the chords are within that pentatonic scale, because I use everything, pentatonic for a reference for everything, then, you know, you can use that scale as your kind of reference point, and then if you can see the chords in that scale, it creates the modes automatically. So you might not know what it's called, which I recommend, by the way, learning the modes. But you'll see how it's made because, oh, well, that note isn't in the pentatonic scale, but it's in some scale, and the G chord is in this progression, so it's got to work. Okay, so even in a little riff like that, I really have tagged that G chord already. And then to go back to our one chord, the A minor chord, right? If I bent this note up, then I'm getting into the A minor chord we have right here, okay? So that's the next spot, right? So we covered here, which is also up here. We covered here, all four chords. Now we can go just a little bit farther and get all the chords again, okay? So check this out. We have an A minor here. Right, the Stevie Ray Vaughan. Kind of lick. That sort of thing. All right out of that A minor chord. Okay? Now from that point, where's an F? Well, all I have to do is change one note. So I put this note here, and it's part of the F chord right here. So I hit the notes. I hit this note and this note. Okay, out of my F chord, kind of an arpeggio. Okay, so we covered our A minor, our F, our C's right here, so I can go right back to our, you know, shape right here that is basically we just have to manipulate a tiny bit and we get all those chords. A minor, F, C, and then we can do a G right here. Okay, so, and back to our G right here. So we have here and here. So I'm hitting the G here, or I can do that. Right, so we got A minor, F, C, G, back to A minor. So, right, so you're starting to really see where those notes are, and you're consciously trying to pay attention to this and doing it slowly, right? The emphasis is on melody, not on technique, okay? Because if you already have some technique, then if you slow down and find where those notes are, then you can add your burning runs or whatever it is, but they'll be a lot more melodic when you know where the chord tones are. Okay, so that's 3 spots, right? 4 spots. We got here, here, and then you got here, and then you got here again, right? Because it starts over. So after that, you know, and you slow down and really try to be melodic, then you can add your fast runs to it, right? So right, we got it. Right, because I'm hitting all those notes. Back to A minor. Right here. So right there, I'm hitting that F. Here comes my C chord. And I'm hitting that C chord, right? The third. I can hit that whole bottom part of that C chord. That right there is right out of the G. Back to the A minor. And then my... Right, and back in. Now, I did fast runs, right? Because there's, you know, I've spent years working on my technique, but I wish I had spent all that time working more so on finding the right notes. Because, man, you listen to a Gilmour solo, they're not fast, but man, every note matters. Neil Sean is a guy that can burn super quick, guy from Journey. Been in a bunch of bands, but go back and listen to the older Journey stuff, you know, like right when Steve Perry got in the band or right a little bit before that. Some of the best, most melodic blues playing you'll ever hear in your life. I mean, such just the way that he can bend and hold emotion in the bends and then do a blazing fast run and then right back into super soulful. It's just amazing, right? So there's a lot of these players that can do that, but the reason they can do that is, again, they focus on melody. So that's, you know, really the whole emphasis of this whole practice routine, except for the first lesson, which is just for the dexterity. The next two parts really are all about the melody, because when you concentrate on that, you make a good song, you make a good solo, and you start to get better and better. And if your goal is music for a living, man, if you're melodic and can play creative parts and you know your gear and all that other stuff, and it starts to come together, you'll be in demand, right? Whether or not you know, you're on tour or whatever, you can make a lot of money in town in a corporate gig band or any of that kind of stuff. Now, if you just want to enjoy and be able to listen to yourself and have fun, this works for that too. So get GarageBand or something, you know, write some tunes. It's a freaking blast. But you want it to sound good. You don't want to sound like a drunken cat fight. And this, I promise, this series will help you with that. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you want to support the cause, share the videos, subscribe, do all that stuff. That would be amazing. As a big thank you to me. You guys are amazing. I love doing this. You're awesome. We'll catch you next time.